hold on. I want to build on this for a second because I think it's critically important what you said as well, Friedberg. You have to be comfortable with the investment you're making. I look at these companies and I look at the underlying customer, the product, and what kind of revenue it's going to generate. And people thought I was dunking on Rivian yesterday. And I said, listen, when Tesla went public, people forget their valuation was $1.5 billion.
1.7. 1.7.
Okay, so $1.7 billion when they went public. Now, they already had thousands of Roadsters and they had already had the
they had 93 million of revenue in year one.
So this was dramatically different than what Rivian had. Rivian is being valued at, whatever that is, 120 billion, I think yesterday. Rivian has 17 billion in cash. Somebody asked me at the poker game last night what I value Rivian at. I said 17 million in cash plus 3 billion, double roughly what Tesla's was. The market's hotter right now, whatever. But I put them at 20 billion and people were giving me a hard time about it. I said, I think that's actually the realistic valuation for this company. And we are in a very dangerous moment in time right now where I think people are, whether it's meme stocks or crypto or NFTs, suspending disbelief, in some cases SPACs, because they're not all created equal. And certainly in private companies, we're seeing this, where people are giving people an amount of credit which makes no logical sense and is getting further and further disconnected from reality. So as an investor, you have a choice. Either you have your fundamentals, which I'm not going to change my fundamentals. I'm going to focus on the fundamentals that got me where I am, and I'm not going to be involved in a $100 billion market cap company that hasn't launched a product yet, let alone a $120 billion one. I'll stay focused on startups.
Yeah. But what you're saying is also important because you're highlighting how you value that company. You Correct. Individually said, I think that company's worth some multiple of how many cars have been sold in the past. Elon sold, thousands of cars. He was worth 1.7 billion. These guys have sold. And other people are coming in and looking at this company and saying they've built facilities, they've built assembly lines, and they've got pre-orders and bookings for lots and lots of cars down in the future. And clearly they've gone in and, some people have gone in and seen these plants and seen these cars actually working. So, it's really important to take note that your point of view is one point of view in a very diverse market with many points of view. And everyone's going to come into this market. And that's why, unless you individually as an investor have a strong point of view and can show that you can apply your unique insights to consistently beat the market making decisions, investment decisions like that, you're eventually going to lose because those other points of view will be a bigger view of the truth and you'll lose money. And that's why, by the way, that's why picking stocks is ultimately a loser's game unless you have some unique ability and insight. For most people, historically, and in an up market, everyone looks like a genius.
Edge, right? You need to have an edge. And in the public markets, it's hard to say that
there's some unique competency. Yeah, there's some unique competency that you need to bring to the table.
I mean, if we double click on what you just said as the things that would be reasons to bet on Rivian, number one, they have 48,000 orders of pickup trucks against the F-150, which is now electric from Ford, and 1 million.
I don't know why you're arguing this, right? Like you're just making a point that we don't have someone on the panel right now, but someone else could come in and argue the other side.
And I would just say this is the part of the conversation, to be honest, Jason, to give you feedback I don't like, because Rivian, just in defense of Rivian for a second, what I have heard is that it's a well-engineered car or truck rather. They've done a very smart path to market, which is essentially to, build these delivery trucks for Amazon that allowed them to even, frankly, be default alive.
Sure.
Versus, to use the Paul Graham term, instead of default dead. I think the point that's more important here is that it doesn't affect you. So let Rivian do well, And this is part of the cycle.
You're saying I shouldn't have an opinion publicly?
No. I'm just saying this is the part of the cycle that I don't understand, where people legitimately have these zero-sum points of view about companies. And this is where I think Friedberg is more right than anybody else, which is the market is the sum of all these collective points of view.
Sure.
And I think it's fine to have one. I think it's a little superficial, your point of view, because it's not really,
how so?
Sitting on top of a model or anything else. And I think it's the same kind of superficiality that the Tesla Q guys had about Tesla for many years as well. It takes a long time, as somebody that does this every day, and I just want to point this out, it takes an enormous amount of time, an enormous amount of work to be 55% right.
I've invested in 350 companies. I meet with 2,000
in the public markets, Jason, it's different in the public markets.
My companies are going public now, so I take exception to what you're saying. I know a fraud when I see it. I've seen them before.
Oh, that's a really big statement.
I'm not saying Rivian's at a fraud level yet.
That's not a fraud.
No, but the distance between the valuation and reality is in the $50 to $100 billion range.
I know, but that's not in control of Rivian. That's not in their control. Okay, that's in a bunch of external market participants' control. So you can't pin that on them. My point
what I would pin it on is the market right now seems dysfunctional and it's not properly measuring things.
I know, but throwing shade... Then you should throw shade at Tiro, Fidelity, all these people that are bidding up your companies, by the way, because they are the ones that are taking Rivian to 120 billion. It's not Rivian's fault.
And Jason, what's really going on in the market?
I think it was public speculators.
What's really going on? It's not. You can't sell $16 billion in an IPO to speculators.
These are at a much lower price.
But these are institutionally placed trade orders. But regardless, the market is clearly right now in productive assets, businesses. The market is looking at a time horizon that it has never looked at before, which is making bets that are 10, 15, 20 years in the future. And that's because of the condition that we're in right now from a monetary policy point of view. Interest rates are so low. There's nowhere to get yield in other assets. So you have to look further and further out to find value.
I accept that.
The market is making 10-year bets, which is like a VC type bet.
It's more than a 10-year bet.
Yeah. Okay, and Jason, sorry, can I just finish my last point before you interrupted me? My issue, Jason, is I think you are an exceptional angel investor, but just the same way you derided a bunch of late stage guys. Remember last night at poker when we were talking about late stage folks entering into the angel market and the Series A, you were extremely dismissive because you know what the job is to be done to do that job well, and they have a different skill set. Similarly, what I would just offer for you to think about is the people that really underwrite public market stocks well, do things and have a skill set that is extremely specific, and it is well trained as well. And I think that
I accept that there are people who are good at that.
Let me jump into the Jake House
since you want to defend me. That's the people are in shock right now. So let you speak. Way to get yourself back in the game.
The sky is purple. The sky is purple. The moon is set.
Breaking news.
Hell is freezing over right now.
Hell is freezing over.
Okay. So here's where I think Jake Hal's. I don't know anything about this Rivian company, but where I think Jake Hal's right is we've seen over and over again that when a startup gets $1 billion plus valuation without a product, invariably it ends up somewhere between a disappointment and outright fraud.
Jason's Law.
Whether, it was Theranos or Magic Leap or Quibi or whatever. I'm not saying they're all frauds. I mean, I think just Theranos frauds, whatever. So I think it's reasonable for any, let's say, seed or early venture investor to develop the heuristic that I'm not going to invest in anything with $1 billion, with basically a unicorn valuation without seeing the product first. Because we've got our hands burnt so many times from these overhyped companies. And here's where I agree. If I can't see and use the product, I'm not investing. I'll invest at a seed stage, but I will not invest at a unicorn stage. No way.
I agree with that. But what I'm saying is when a company is going public like that, there is demonstrable proof of concept there. Okay. The only market in which that's not true is in biotechnology.
Well, I would say for Fisker and Nikola, two related companies, those ones seem very, very shaky.
You can debate about the scalability of these things, and you can debate that people didn't do the diligence, but they had to at least put a proof of concept out there for you to judge. If people don't do the work, I agree with you. Like if you're rolling a truck down a hill, sure.
Outright fraud.
No, but my point is, if you were there and you did your work, you would have seen what you needed to see. What I have heard from people who were investors in both Lucid and Rivian is that they have sat in the cars, they've driven the cars, they've spent time with them, they've seen the factories, and it's very much real. Now what they're debating is ramp and velocity and scale. I don't know. I don't have a position in either.
Neither do I.
I have the bigger macro point of view, which is important to me, which is it just because these things are in the public markets, I think people think it's easy to judge. And I think actually modeling them and making good decisions is just as hard as it is for private companies.
We need to roll this clip because there is somebody who is giving exceptional advice on CNBC. Let's roll the clip.
Yeah, so Upstart's up about 25% just in 4 days since we bought it. We bought it on about 4 days ago. So that's actually made a nice little move in the short term, probably a little extended right now, but longer term, that's a good looking name. Very powerful, very strong earnings. These stocks are.
What do they do? Really I don't even know them. What do they do?
Excuse me?
What does Upstart do?
I'm sorry.
What kind of company is it?
Yeah, I'm not. You're breaking up.
Oh, Well, I guess we've got an audio problem with Mark. I'm sorry.
Fucking God.
Brutal.
Who is this guy? Who is he?
I have no idea.
JCal, is that like your uncle or something? Who is that guy?
Listen.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Can
to the
anybody get on
point.
CNBC?